Greetings and welcome to all to another segment of Let's Talk and Grow with Ms Roshumba. First, I have to give honor to the Most High, our Creator, for all that is and forever will be in this grand and powerful universe in which we reside in. Secondly, I do need to touch on the fact that the inspiration for this show came about from a good friend that I knew back in 2011. His name was Mr. Early Laverne. Here's a picture of him. Mr. Laverne's story was very riveting. He was faced with many challenges. As often that we will find in our community, amongst our black men, their story, and black women and our family as a whole. So his challenges were so challenging and terrible that I felt the need to do my part, tell the story of others on his behalf. I helped him publish his first and only book, A Rainbow of Poems. I only knew him for a very short time, 2 years. And so he transcended in 2013. And to the audience that has watched this show many times, you understand that I always want to start off with one of his poems in his honor. So my guest is sitting right in front of me, but I'm going to let you know who he is in a moment. But now let me continue. The poem I will be doing on the behalf of Mr. Early Laverne is one of his called Bread is Bread. And as usual, I end with one of mine at the very end. So here we go. Bread is bread. You heard what I said. The sound of quack quack isn't always a duck. A quality person doesn't always receive good luck. In spite of great abilities, you can lose your way. Any diseased person cannot recognize night or day. I don't always receive those things I crave. Nonetheless, bread is bread. Observe some women that are beautiful and fine. This do not indicate that either has an accurate mind. Being given a gift, yet you wanted something else instead. You should know by now that bread is bread. A cup too is a container, yet it's not a glass. Anything greatly built doesn't mean it will last. A promising future comparatively isn't better than the past. Every human being doesn't have a touch of class. That which is lost is not always found. A person in debt isn't always buried in the ground. Give me some jelly to spread, 'cause bread is bread. Yo, Mr. Laverne, he had a tricky way to move words around so that we could just smile at the end of it. That was so lovely. So without further ado, it's time to introduce my guest today. A treasure, a warrior, a survivor, a star of his story. For he has survived and lived to share his experience of being taken away for what may appear to be his rights of American passages. Of course, there's more to a hero story than the chase and the capture. For a young African American youth with all his natural abilities and unique skills and aspirations ahead of him, having survived and now to share with us, the audience, is an honor for me and hopefully you, the listeners. For many of our black young males, the narrative begins as most adolescent youth of all races, curiosity and adventure. But something sinister occurs in the African American community that destroys families and individual lives generationally. And one realizes that you're no longer an adolescent, game's up. So my guest today is Brother Jamal, and it's with great respect and honor that I welcome you here on this show to courageously share your story. My hope is that some adolescent male of African descent is listening and learning this day. Welcome, my brethren.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, welcome.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you traveling a distance because you don't live in town and came out here and made time in this space to share your valuable story.
My pleasure.
So, as you know it, audience, you need to subscribe, you need to share, and you need to leave a comment if you're pleased with what we're doing here. So, I'm going to begin by asking you some questions.
Okay.
What was your hopes and dreams as a 16-year-old youth?
16?
16!
Oh, that was quite a ways ago. But I think that at that time I was just discovering my manhood and being more familiar with politics and coming of age of learning sports, and I had aberrations of perhaps playing baseball, you know.
Okay.
'Cause I did grow up in the Little League and stuff like that.
Okay.
And got pretty good at it too, you know.
Which one, baseball or?
Baseball, yeah.
Baseball, okay.
Baseball.
Okay.
And so that was one of my hopes, but my parents also wanted me to go to college.
Yes.
So that was in the back of my mind. In order to go to college, you have to maintain certain grades.
Correct.
So I was trying to do that as well.
Okay. And did you come from a large family? Was it, how many?
I'm the eldest of 7.
You're the eldest of 7.
Right, so.
The first.
I was the first, and
yes.
the other siblings looked up after me. They
Yes.
looked up to me as well.
Yes.
And so I tried to be a trendsetter and get a middle course pace in what I was doing, you know, to show them the way.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
And sometimes being the first means that you have to tread ground in ways that you had no one else to lead you.
That's
You
true.
were the leader.
That's very true.
You're also being the first also means your parents became parents when you came about. Because before that, they didn't know what it was like to be a mother or a father. So
That's right.
lots of lessons are being learned when you came around.
Yes, that's very true. I know my father, he was in the service. So in the Navy at that time, you were gone a lot.
Yes.
So really about 7 months out of a year, he'd be gone.
Okay.
And so a lot of burden was on my mother.
Yes.
And she really raised us. But when he was there, he took over and control. And so
Correct.
I had the best of both worlds, the male and the female. But the father was gone a lot. You
Yes.
know. He
And
was gone.
yes. And the effects of that showed up somehow.
Yes, yes.
What were some of the foreseen challenges that kept rising up on you as a child? Things that you saw that kept coming, even though you tried to go to the left, you tried to go to the right, you saw it coming at you. Because you came of age around when? In the 70s?
Yeah, late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
Of course, that was a very heightened political movement during that time. Black people.
Black Panther.
Oh yeah.
Black Power.
Black Power movement. The Civil Rights movement was still going on, and there was an anti-war movement.
Vietnam.
So, yeah, Vietnam. So there were a lot of movements going on, and I became aware of many of them. You know,
Yes.
superficially at first, but then later more in depthly. But those were some of the forces that shaped me, and I was coming up at a time too when they were wanted men people to join in for the be recruited.
The draft.
The draft.
The draft.
And so I made a vow, no, I'm not going to no draft.
Okay, so you didn't sign up for it?
Didn't sign up for it, told myself if I was forced I'd go to Canada.
Yeah.
You know, but that never happened. The war eventually did end. I believe it was 72, 73, somewhere around there.
Yes.
And
so the unforeseen challenges that came up was what was going on with the civil rights
movement.
The Vietnam quest to draft the young men. Was it a heightened time of racism? Like when you say civil rights, what did that look like for a young black youth?
Yeah, well, at that time, the police were really a problem. And I grew up in the Bay Area.
Okay.
So the police were really a problem in stopping and frisking young black men. And I got stopped and frisked several times. And there was this, most youngsters, my age at that time, we had this dislike for the police.
Yes.
You know? And then that was exacerbated by the Panther Party. You know, they,
right.
You know, their first word was pig, and that's what we used to call them, pigs. You know.
Yes, and being courageous and deciding that we, you know, you all being men, they were men, and so men do what men think do.
Exactly.
And that was intimidated to assist them.
It definitely was, and but what we did basically was speak our mind. We spoke up.
Yes.
There was a few altercations, I recall, but for the most part, it was just having a general dislike, and non-trusting, and definitely didn't like how they treated us and the black community as well.
Exactly.
You know,
so the unforeseen challenges is just this energy of how you should be in your place and being courageous to speak what's on your mind and showing that you have a right to be here and anywhere.
Exactly.
How was the educational system at the time? How did it deal with teaching you all? Because it was about maybe 7-8 years into integration. You know, integration actually took its force 63. So the late 60s, early 70s, it's basically about a decade into the practice of being able to go to schools with people of other races. Now, if you remember, do you recall that you were being taught about history, about who you were as an African youth, and so on and so forth?
Well, not in the junior high school, but when I went to senior high, we had senior high back then.
Okay.
Busing was a thing.
Okay.
And so I was bused to a school in Vallejo, which was predominantly black.
Okay.
And I liked the school, actually. I liked the school because I was around a lot of people of my culture and friends that I knew. And we had a good time at school, primarily because at that time there was the Black Student Union.
Yes.
And the Black Student Union really promoted, self-awareness, go out and, try to get scholarships and stuff.
Right.
Everything that was positive.
Right.
And at the same time reminding us of who we are and where we came from.
Okay,
So the Black Student Unions at that time were very critical and crucial for my development as well as other black people's development in school.
Right. And was that headed by the student body, or was it an adult teacher that took part in playing?
It was a student body,
okay.
But at the same time we had to have a facilitator. So there was a teacher there who he actually taught another subject, but he facilitated us when we had our meetings and stuff like that,
Well, I just want to let you know, the Black Student Union, BSU, is still very popular and needed today.
Yes.
you know, more than ever before, because some things have not changed.
Yeah, I've actually saw, and I'm not sure the statistics around the country, but it seems like a lot of BSU studies in high school have been dwindled down, you know, and I doubt that's the case in college. I know that they still have it in various colleges, but I don't see it as in high schools as much as I used to.
Right. Yeah, I just finished interviewing not long ago a lady that in her mid-70s, she spent 15 years volunteering her time to the BSU at the high school and junior high level in the Sacramento and Elk Grove community.
That's beautiful.
And she just retired, so this was her second retirement. So
wow.
She was the latest one I interviewed because she saw the value of it and how important it was.
Yes.
I hope that they will be able to replace her, and because, like you say, it was one of your crutch that you used to support you through those years.
Very helpful, very educational, very enlightening for me. Yes.
Did you teach you in school about your history?
Well,
Black history other than the BSU?
As I recall, no, we didn't.
Okay.
We had the BSU, and that helped us a lot with understanding certain things about our history.
Okay.
But class I was attending, the history class, was definitely the run-of-the-mill, go by the book,
yes.
George Washington, you know, Thomas Jefferson, these type of things.
Yeah.
A little segment devoted to slavery, you know.
The shameful moment where you just say,
right,
we're the losers.
Yeah. And so that was it. That was
it. So
my mother and father, they were very instrumental though also in increasing us in education of our history.
Yes.
You know, they went out and bought a Encyclopedia Britannica on Black history.
Right.
And encouraged us to read, and I read a lot of it.
Okay.
You know? So I knew about Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois. I knew about Frederick Douglass. You know, various people, Nat Turner. You know, I was aware of these people because of my own self-studies and readings. You know, that my mother had encouraged us to do through the books.
Right.
Stuff that they got. And back then, Ebony magazine was really popular.
Ebony, Jet magazine,
and they pushed a little book thing to read.
Right.
And so, mother made sure we had those books available in our house. And
so you were a reader.
Yeah, I was a reader.
And it's important. Reading is important, is it not?
Totally invaluable. It's invaluable for the main reasons that it gives you an understanding of yourself.
Exactly.
And then understanding yourself helps you get a more firm foothold on the direction you want to go, you know.
It allows you to be more of a critical thinker, to be able to not just take in what one gives to you, but to critically put into perspective and align it with your personal life.
Indeed.
You know, indeed. I agree with you. I love literature, and we're at a time right now that they are taking books off the shelf, that information that they do not want people to know.
I'm aware of it. Yes. It's really bad in the South. Definitely encourage youngsters to, if they have these books, hold on to them, create your own library.
Yes.
And that's what I've done, created a library.
Yes.
So.
I love that, and you know, I can't say it enough, you know, because if a person that has no knowledge of self, then you will be an object in society, and that's what we see happening. What were the roles your peers played in some of the choices you made and directions that you headed in when you were young? Did you have a group of young men you hung with?
Oh, of course. We had a little group, and when we were in junior high school, we would always go out to do the same thing. We try out for basketball, football, baseball, and we'd always be together. And then later on, as we became more mature men, there were a few of us, we formed a little singing group, you know.
Oh.
We liked the Temptations and the Four Tops, you know, groups like that. And so we kind of patterned ourselves after them and created our own little style. and actually did some performances around in the Bay Area.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was enlightening. It was a good experience, but at the same time, when I look back, it was just a temporary phase,
Yes.
But it was good for when I look back on the organizational structure, because you had to be organized to think and focus like as one, as a unit, and then it was creative because you had to come up with ideas on how to entertain. And so that created a concept of doing something uniquely. And we all enjoyed that. And the proof of it was that we got recognition from our peers. Hey man, I saw your show. I loved it. It was good. Hey man, y'all on your way. So it was a good experience, and for us 4 or 5 that were part of the group, it kept us away from veering into the drug culture, and that was a saving grace for us.
So that said, that's why I kind of asked you, who your peers were. So, I want you to kind of lead us into how you ended up into the situation that took you out of society for, and if you choose to tell us how long.
Yeah.
So tell us what share with us what you choose. Let's put it that way, because again, it's not just to delve into your personal life, but it's to be an example for the young people and the young men, and to clarify in our society what we think of black men.
Yes.
And their challenges that is kind of like set up for them.
Right.
So please share with us,
Well, for me, it was a situation where while we were singing, and entertaining, I was also open to all kinds of other ideas. And I was also, like I said, a voracious reader and studying our culture and history. And I met a couple of individuals that I had always seen in the community. They were called Black Muslims.
Yes.
And they would always be selling bean pies and Muhammad Speaks newspapers, and they always had their little bow ties on.
Correct. Very disciplined.
So they were object of curiosity. So I got curious and wanted to find out about them. And so they invited me to one of the meetings, and of course they had a very charismatic speaker who came on, and he just gave us a lot of information that I had never heard before regarding our history, regarding our names, our origins in Africa. We knew he was from Africa, but we didn't know that there were other aspects of us, that we'd been introduced to Islam, that we had cultures and civilizations like Ghana, Mali, Songhai, who flourished, And so this type of information fascinated me. It was another awakening.
Wow.
And so I had told myself, I was 16 years old. Yeah, this is the direction I want to go.
So this is 16. Yeah. Okay, this is a big time. Yeah.
But anyway, I still went to school. Had an opportunity to go to attend UC Davis on a summer program. It's called Upward Bound, and there, we had, this was a federally funded program, and they had a lot of black people from Sacramento and stuff surrounding areas.
UC Davis and Davis, right.
Right, and so they helped teach us to get ahead, encourage us to go to college. That's what it was. Right. And so we stayed up there for 6 weeks, going home on the weekends. It was a very eye-opening experience. So that encouraged me more, and then in my last year I became the president of the Black Student Union.
So you went there for how many years?
2 years.
2 years. It was a 2-year program.
It was a summer program.
A summer program. Okay.
So I went there for 2 years and learned a lot. I had good experiences with people.
Were you showing to be a leader? Was the leadership energy coming out of you?
I think after that experience it was.
Yeah.
It was, because when I finished, I eventually became the president of the Black Student Union.
Look at that.
In my last year, and we were instrumental in making sure that the high school queen was a black woman.
Correct.
And things of that nature. And so we also had fundraisers. We created a a women's basketball league, you know, so they could play it surrounding high schools, you know. We did a lot of good things and positive things.
Affirming your community, affirming your people, affirming your heritage.
Exactly. Yes. Then we had one incident where it was a riot at our school.
Okay.
Blacks and whites.
Right.
And for whatever reason, it caused the whole school to be shut down. So we had some Office of Economic Opportunity existed at that time, and they told us, look, why don't you come to the school where we started, you know? So it was like an ad hoc school for 1 week, where we decided that we're not going to go to the school where we normally go to and attend this place. Right. And that was another eye-opener.
Ad hoc school, you said.
Ad hoc meaning that the school was formulated strictly on the fact that there was a riot and the school had been shut down. Okay. So we were encouraged to go there. You know? Okay. And
all the students?
You know, just primarily black.
Okay.
Primarily black.
So they took the blacks out of their regular school that they're used to, put them into a ad hoc school. And like a timeout school.
Really, and it wasn't all blacks because some didn't want to go.
Right.
But because I was head of the BSU, I encouraged, you know, a lot of blacks to go, so we did go. Okay. And there we were introduced to Bantu philosophy. You know, we were introduced to black actors and actresses, you know, and plays that they had written, you know, and starred in, and it was a real eye-opening experience, you know.
So it actually was pretty good.
It was a beautiful awakening. Wow. And I would have loved to continue to attend that school instead of going back to the school we were at. Wow. But that 1 week just further confirmed in me, you know, the need to be more serious about the direction you're going and the stands you want to take in your life, you know, what you believe. And so that eventually led me, when I got back into school, regular school, I eventually decided, because graduation was coming soon, what do you want to do? So I said, man, I want to become a member of the Nation of Islam, which is what I did. Yeah. And I met some good brothers in Sacramento while I was attending Davis, and actually got accepted at UC Davis. Actually got accepted at UC Davis. And so from there, I met a couple of Muslims here at UC Davis, and they were in Sacramento. They had a masjid there, temple as we call it. Okay, masjid, temple is the same. Okay. It was different, and since this was the Nation of Islam and not Al-Islam, which we'll probably discuss a little later. But the bottom line was that I became a member of the Nation of Islam. And started,
how old were you at the time?
I was 18.
18?
I was 18. So I was young, still had a whole life ahead of me, but I made the decision to become a member of the Nation of Islam. So devoted my time towards the development of the Nation of Islam in Sacramento. Okay. It was right here in Sacramento. Matter of fact, it was in Oak Park. Okay. I'm trying to think of the street.
5th Street, Broadway. Yeah.
But anyway, there was this street that was on, and it was an old veterans temple. Okay. And right across the street there was a little market that the brothers had bought. Right. And then next to it was a restaurant that the brothers had bought. And so it was kind of like it was trying to build that street up. Yes. You know, and brothers was doing pretty good.
So were the brothers connected also with the Black Panthers and because I'm thinking that's probably around the time with the Black Panthers doing the breakfast program and so forth in Oak Park as well.
It was, but the thing was that our relationship was basically just cordial. Right. We knew that we had the same struggle, but we didn't necessarily coordinate things, you know, together. Right. We did talk, you know, we did recognize that they were part of the Black movement, and that was that. Okay. So it was good from that point, and there was we had members that were Black Panthers. Okay. And vice versa. Okay. So that was the way we dealt with each other at that time.
So what occurred that created the system?
Yeah. What happened was that I was basically selling newspapers, other types of products, you know, to supplement my income and help the Nation of Islam. At the time, there was a lot of harassment being done by the police.
Yes.
And so they had an incident, I believe it was in Berkeley, California, where a Muslim was shot, black Muslim was shot, and as a result, that infuriated the entire black Muslim community from the Bay Area to Sacramento.
Right.
And so, of course, we had some very charismatic teachers then, and they told us, we know what the law is, you know, you do to my brother, I'll do to yours, you know.
Right.
And so things like that took place, and as a result, I found myself, you know, facing a first-degree murder, along with 3 other co-defendants. Right. And we subsequently were tried and convicted at a jury trial, and we were sentenced to life in prison. And that was in 1974. And from that time on till 2010, I did 36 years in the California Corrections Department of Corrections. And of course, that's another story in and of itself. You know, there's a lot of things.
Well, that's why I say you're a survivor and you're a treasure for having gone away for so long.
Very long.
And made it through.
Yes.
Because it becomes a rites of passages in a sense, you know, for different reasons. But yours, you know, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, it was bitter and sweet. It had its good and bad, but so does everything, you know. But yeah, you're right. I was a survivor. I am a survivor, and the experience really made me who I am today. Right. And if I said would I have to change anything in the past, probably a few things. But for the most part, you know, I took what was confronted with me based upon the decisions I made, right, and tried to make something out of it even better.
Right, you know? Right.
And so that's what I'm most happy about. That I didn't let the system destroy me. Right. You know, and of course, when you go in, you have options. There's brothers who are in the same predicament that you're in, but they're striving to make themselves better. Right. And then there's some that want to hold on to it, the gang mentality, right, and then there's some just giving up, you know. And so I naturally surrounded myself with brothers who want to make something of themselves and do better life.
And that's kind of what preserved you.
Yes,
okay,
indeed.
That's what preserved you. So the same religion that you took up earlier on, you stayed with it and it preserved you within the system as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was a metamorphosis. I went from Nation of Islam to Al-Islam, and that's based on studying.
Okay.
You know, once you study.
So what Islam?
Al-Islam,
Al-Islam.
Yeah, like the Islam, basically. Okay. And it's based on the studies of Prophet Muhammad. Okay. Peace and blessings be upon him, of 1400 years ago.
Okay.
And so there was this change from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad to Prophet Muhammad. And so there was more time to read the Quran and understand what it was saying. There was more time to reflect and look back on your life and see what you were doing, what you did wrong, and what you could have, should have, would have, if you had the chance to. And so complete change in direction. Well, but I must say that before that, a disillusionment did take place. You know, when you go to prison, you face the life and you realize, how the hell did I get here like this?
Yes.
And do that?
You hear that, audience? You hear that, young people? There is that moment of reckoning with self. How did that happen?
Right. What was I thinking?
Yeah.
You know, why did I become so impulsive, you know, and reactionary instead of thinking something through, you know? And
what was the answer that came to you about that? Because that's so important, because you were young.
Right.
That's why I started off by saying, you know, an adolescent is very young. They're exploring and the world and so forth, and they're easily impressionable. So
for me, it was when I look back at it, you know, the very people who I was with in the Nation Islam was actually encouraging us to go out and do certain things.
Okay.
And so as a youth, you're susceptible to that charismatic person. Right. And whereas had I been around people with a little bit more sense and had been in prison and knew what to do and how to think, I probably would have been more cautious in making that type of decision.
Okay.
So the people who you receive advice from is very important for a youngster. But most of the youngsters today, they're not seeking advice. Right. You know, they're reacting, which like I did, you know, reacted, and they're so quick to pick up a gun, which I did, you know. And these are things that, you know, in reflection, in retrospect, you look back at and you say that those are things that if you had had the right guidance, you would have done it that way. But of course, it's hindsight.
2020.
Right. And so hindsight is to help you be able to use your foresight the next time certain major decisions come in your life, you know. Nevertheless, you know, I did it 36 years, but it was, like I say, it was bittersweet, but the people who I associated with, you know, helped me all along the way, and that was the benefit of being in prison, you know.
And so the fact that you said that through it all, you were helped by somebody. I mean, it was a guidance of someone that got you in there.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a guidance of someone that helped to preserve you within there.
Right.
So when we think of the young youths in our society right now, what would you say the worst thing is happening to them? Who are their guidance? Who's there for them to whisper the right things in their ears, to guide them, to show them a healthier way to be, especially for the African American young youths?
Well, we can see today, there's hardly any guidance, and you use the key word whisper, you know, and from an Islamic point of view, we say, you know, you can have good prompts or good whispering and bad whispering, you know, and so there are negative forces out there. Yes. And these forces are really designed to destroy you.
Exactly.
And if when a youngster doesn't recognize that, like I didn't, you know, then you're going to listen to those whispers and make decisions on them. And so if you don't have that guidance, you know, if you don't have people that's whispering good, positive, constructive,
healthy,
direction for you, then you'll lose out. Yeah. And so we're seeing this loss of youngsters to making bad decisions, you know, based upon machoism, you know, what they see perhaps in their rap music, you know, the hatred, the self-hatred of each other, you know, because you from this set or I'm from this set, you know, we want to pick up a gun and shoot each other. Drug turf war, you know, which is you control 2 blocks and they control other 3 blocks, and you know, these things are the reasons why most young black youth are killing each other and coming to prison, you know. And so, but we can't overlook also that there's systemic racism too.
Yes, there is. And
systemic racism happens an economic factor, and domestically we look at how many of our family life is dysfunctional. Yes. You know, and we look at other things in the society when it comes to jobs and opportunities, and just the overall direction. Right. And so, you know, there's 2 things playing here, and we fall victim to both the self-hatred that we have and this economic systemic racism that's part of the community. Exactly. You know? And so, you know, and it's very hard. It's very hard.
And one of the things you said, you know, in your conversation was when you had to go to the ad hoc school that taught you more about who you are and your people and your journey here. There was an element of proudness, of clarity.
Right.
You know, and it's sometimes because that wasn't like you were hungry to know that your value.
Yes.
You know, what is my value as for me, a woman, and what's your value as a man, and what's your role when you're young? And so our young youths are being defined by a system that says their value is through the music. You want money, you know, you want to look good, you want bling bling, you want girlfriend, you know, these types of things that make others wealthy and disillusion them. And in a way, it's an entrapment to get them into the system. And so I think, I know that those that have survived it, those that have been through it, you know, there is an element of what are we going to do for the children that are coming now lost? Because one thing I know is the system that created havoc for you and me in my own way, you know, has not stopped. It has metamorphosized in many different ways. That's and true. More subtly, and you know, make you think we're one with everyone, but it's still working 24/7 to take our children and move them into a system that is designed to create wealth in a form of an enslavement type of way. Because I would imagine while you were in there, you had to work.
Yes, it did.
Tell me about what it was like working in that system without going too heavy into the details, because, you know, there's an element that they won't allow you to work out here and benefit yourself in the right way. They have something for you in that system too.
And very good point, because working in the California Department of Corrections is really like slave labor. You know, they have different factories where had you been on the street, you'd be making a minimum wage or more, but in prison, you're making sub-minimum wage, and
$20-$30 a month.
That's it. You're familiar with the
yeah, I know someone that said enough to buy your toothpaste, your toothbrush, and your basic stuff.
Right. But the problem with that overall is, now that I've been out now for a number of years, is that none of that counts toward your Social Security once you get out. They look at it as you haven't been at work. Right. So you've actually gained nothing economically, you know, for that nest egg to retire by working in prison. They don't even count that, you know. So a person in prison, once he gets out, that's when he begins to start working again to accrue Social Security benefits, you know.
And that becomes hard, because after you've been in the system, you come out, they're saying that now you have that mark on your record, we don't really want to employ you.
Yes.
You know, so when I see a lot of black men on the streets, homeless, you know, black women too, and children now, the young youths are out there now too.
Yes, they are.
You know, I ask myself, you know, what are people that made it through, African people like me and you, well, me especially, because, you know, what is my responsibility? What is my responsibility for the generations that's coming up now, and the ones that have fallen through the cracks? Right. You know, what is it that we must do, and who got our ears to tell us that it's more about our consumption in food, with what we have, you know, our classism. What class are you at? And so,
I think just to touch on your point,
yeah,
my assessment of the state of Black America,
yes,
since I've been out, is that there needs to be just a radical departure from trying to push for the things that we had normally pushed for. You know, we've been asking the government for jobs for decades,
Yes.
you know, and just give us little trinkets,
Right.
you know. And so I think that there has to be a grassroots movement on individual levels where we begin to help the youngsters in our neighborhoods through certain programs that we establish. These programs will not get federally funded as you would like them,
Right.
but most of it's going to have to be volunteer.
Correct.
But these systems can be self-sustaining. They can be small, but that's the start. That's the start. That's where it begins. And they have to be consistent, because if you're not consistent, then that child will begin to lean toward another direction. You know. So, but if you're consistent, you're pushing it. And so even in the Islamic community, I just recently came back from a convention, I'd say, in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And so it's called Tying the Turban.
Tying turban?
Tying the turban.
Oh, tying the turban.
Right.
Okay.
Which is like an introduction for boys into manhood.
Right.
And an introduction for girls into womanhood.
Wow.
And so we had these youths, at least about 100 youths, more men than women, which was a good thing.
Oh, that's powerful.
And we were disciplining them into not only just becoming moral leaders,
yes,
but understanding what they're going to be faced with.
Right.
You know, understanding what they need to do to step up.
Oh.
You know, and the things that they need to avoid. You know, and we couple this with a lot of discipline, similar to boot camp.
Yes. Yes.
You know,
no, it's
got
correct.
up early. You know.
That's right.
And did their little exercises. Make sure they did their prayers, and then the classes began. You know. Then after class, they did another program, you know, outside, and so they were doing many things, and at the end of the day, they was tired, you know. But they have been thoroughly worked both physically and mentally, you know, and it fostered not only some direction, but a sense of camaraderie with the other youngsters, because there was no one trying to bully or make little or make fun of someone if they were overweight or if they were too small, you know, whatever. Everybody encouraged everybody, and this is and when I witnessed this and took part in it, this let me know that this is our future. This is what we need to do, and this is just on a small scale.
Wow.
And so something like this, it's happening annually for the Islamic schools that I'm part of. But this is something that can be done in every community on a regular basis.
So are you connected with folks that are still working on that happening here in Northern California?
Yes, in Northern California I am.
Yes.
We actually have a program where we call it Last Muslim Standing, you know. And what it is we're getting youngsters together for exercise purposes, you know, but we're also developing a curriculum for encouragement, for camaraderie, like I mentioned, really like a pattern of the Tying the Turban. And we accept all youngsters, you know, we don't.
You don't have to be a Muslim.
You don't have to be a Muslim, right?
I like that.
You don't have to be a Muslim.
Important.
As long as you can just
have a need.
Right, have a need, and parents are seeing this.
Yes.
You know, it's on a small scale now, but parents are seeing this and say, "This is what I want my young boy to be a part of." And so this is something that I'm proud to be a part of, and will continue to do that. You know.
That's so lovely. That is so lovely, and you know, this is how one is able to give back.
Yes.
You know,
yes.
and because that's my concern. You know, how will we help the children if they broke our men? If they break our men, if they take them away from us, how do we help the boys, the youths?
Right.
You see, so you know.
They have taken the men away, but many of the men are not broken, and many of them will come back
stronger
and stronger, and they're starting to. They see what's
I
needed,
and
they're doing it.
That's correct. That's correct. With more conviction.
Yes.
And they show what they're made of. That's why I say the treasure is you.
Yes.
And so we're about to wind down because one of the things is, this kind of conversation should be a series. It should not be in 45 minutes, in an hour. But there's always this rush. Everyone is under to, get through the video. 5 minutes is all the time they have, so they're missing out on the meat and potato of healing and what we need to do together and work together. And I must speak always about, what's your take on the support of the Black woman and the role the Black woman plays within, our community, within our family, within even our religion, when you think of, Muslim and, well, Christianity, that's another story. You're a Muslim man, so.
Just to comment on that, I would say that Black women throughout our period of enslavement and post-slavery in this country have been phenomenal. They've actually kept the Black family together.
Thank you.
What was left of it, and so I honor Black women for that, and
thank you.
And we'll continue to honor them. And I know that as far as in Islam, one of the things that Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, said, he said that he was asked a question, by a youngster, my mother says this and my father says this. Tell me what the right guidance is. And he said, your mother, listen to your mother. He said, what? Listen to your mother. He said his third time, listen to your mother, And then he said, then your father. Yes. The point was that the mother is at the beginning of the teaching of the family, They teach the child when they're young. So, and the prophet says, paradise lies at the foot of the woman. Meaning that she's the one that's going to give him his earliest moral education, and he will, or she will understand the nurturing process through her, how to be effective in love and caring for not only the family members within your immediate family, but the society as well. So Black women need to be honored, and continue to be given the support that they need. And that's what's missing, the support of the Black man. And one of the things, Islam is unique in the Black community because it just doesn't focus on, what you need to do when you're for the next life, but it also focuses on the particular issues that affect us individually.
Right.
We have unique situations in our community,
Yes.
Unlike, say, the immigrant Muslim community,
Exactly.
And we need to understand this and then apply the Islam that we understand to our particular situations and needs, And so, you can, the Arabs, they do their thing, more power to them, And they are brothers, but what they have is not what we're dealing with,
Correct.
And so when you look at it from that context, you're better able to support your community through what you believe, and not just try to adopt a foreign program that may not be applicable to what you're all about,
Exactly.
And so that's what we try to look at.
Wow. No, I agree. It's almost like, our brothers and sisters that were born in Africa. When they come here and meet us, there's this kind of perplexity.
And disdain.
And superiority and subjugation.
Yeah.
And all of it has to do with not knowing each other's story.
Right.
And so I always say we must be always studying, always learning, always reading, always, be open-minded so we could critically think as we see these different angles. The society is coming at us daily.
Yes.
They have our children's ear, they have their mind, and oftentimes our children don't no longer know us. And so You know, once we're past all the seasons of our life, our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, then our responsibility now is full force. What can we do?
Yes.
Did we achieve the wisdom, the necessity to be able to be of service to our children and our grands? So I know I'm fully in. That's why
Yes.
I'm here today.
Oh,
and and I'm thankful for the Creator giving me health and strength.
Yes.
Because first of all, you know, if you go into war for the cause, you have to be healthy. You have to know what to put in your body.
Right.
You know, because the war will leave you, you know, kind of broken. So,
Yes.
but you know, if your mind is clear, you know, you have the ability to put the right foods inside here. Allah, the Creator, will do the rest.
And that's a holistic approach.
Yes.
It's a holistic
And
approach.
I've watched it happen.
Yes, and me too. And as you get older, you think about those things even more.
Even you take nothing for granted.
Right, you do take nothing for granted.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm happy with the direction I'm going.
Yes.
You know, and I know it's the right direction now. You know, there's a few little bumps and skid marks on the way, but it's the right direction.
Yes,
And you try to hone it and perfect it, and bring along all those who you can with you. You know, and it's better to do it collectively than individually.
Yes.
And so that's what I'm about.
Yes.
And that's the road I'm on now. That's the road I'm gonna stay on, inshallah, as we say, God willing.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna ask you one last question.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to ask my audience, finally, fill in this blank. The system deprived me of my...
It deprived me of a better, I would say, good question first.
Yeah, deprived, you
yeah.
know. I flipped it. Instead of saying, I came better out, what did they take from me? Even though you may have found it later.
Yeah,
But what did it deprive you of?
Good question, and I would say that it deprived me of some experiences that I would have gone through had I been in society, and going through the maturation process. It's like I almost like a Rip Van Winkle. You go into prison and you're actually not part of the society no more. So there's this maturity process where I was 19 going in, and a lot of things that people do outside when they're in the 20s, the 30s, and the 40s, I didn't do those things, you know. I had to go another route and be in prison and go a different way. And so getting back out, a lot of people consider me very square, you know, very not up to par in terms of being hip to what's going on. And I was a little bit lost at first when I got out, you know.
Technology and all that.
When I left streets, Nixon was president.
Whoa.
You know, the Vietnam War was still going on.
Wow.
You know, and the Black Panthers were still alive, and so when I got out, you know, black people, they didn't have the big naturals no more.
Right.
All the women had weaves in their hair.
Right. Wow.
We had a black president.
Okay,
You know?
it came out during Obama's
I
time.
came out during the Obama administration.
Oh, that's powerful.
And everybody had these cell phones that they were talking to, and I'm wondering, who are they talking to? You know, so it was a culture shock to me. But you quickly adjust.
Speaks to the human mind and spirit.
Right, but there were some things that I needed to understand about relationships more as well, you know, because you do 36 years and you don't have relationships like you do on the streets. Right. And so you miss that.
Yeah.
You miss that.
Do you have a wife and children?
No, my wife passed away. I was married to her a couple of years, and she passed away. But it was a beautiful experience. I enjoyed it. Right now I'm single, and I don't have no children.
Okay.
You know, and you know, as we say sometimes, Allahu Alam, you know, God knows best. You know,
yes.
what's good for you and what's not good
That's
for you.
Correct.
And so I look at it, there's a reason why I don't have children.
That's right.
And I'm not gonna fight it, you know, and I'm 67 years old now.
Oh, you look wonderful, my
And so I'm
mine is clear.
I'm happy with the things I've tried to accomplish, you know.
Yes.
Perhaps I could accomplish more,
Yes.
you know. But as we say, it's in Allah's hands, in God's hand, and just keep moving forward. You know, don't you know, you're gonna take a few steps backwards sometimes, but gather yourself, you know, and go straight ahead again. You know, this is the way. This is the journey. You know, you will be tempted. You will be tested. You know, and as long as you understand those things, you know, then you can see a little clearly the light. You know,
yes.
and the end goal.
So you see, you hear what our brother has said. Sometimes you have to, and I would like to say, I'm not going to fall back, but I'm going to stay on the step longer than I should. You know, because I have to learn the lesson.
Yes.
But I will not, me personally, I will not fall back. I will stay in the class maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
But then I go to the next class because it's forward, always.
Yes.
Backwards, never. But we respect you today.
Thank you. Thank you.
And we honor that you've overcome some amazing challenges.
Alhamdulillah. Praise be to God.
And you are the star of our story.
All right. All right.
You know, I know your mother and father are both alive because you've told me so.
Yes, yes.
And it's an honor for them to see their firstborn come back home.
Oh, they were so honored too.
You know, because I don't know, I'm sure as a mother, your mom and even your father, you know, anything happens to my children, I feel it.
Yes.
And so, you know, I would never have had a good night's rest knowing my child is far away from me.
Right.
And so,
they went through it. They went through
yes.
it.
So I'm gonna wind down and do my normal rituals. First, I would thank you, my brother, for sharing your personal life experiences with us.
You're welcome.
May your life be richer for having done so. May you affect the lives of someone that needed to hear today.
All right.
So what you've been through will not be in vain, even if they may not walk up to you and say it, because that's the way Spirit works.
Right.
Because we are one. An audience. You know what I normally like to do. I'm going to read you one of my poems before I fully close out.
Okay.
Now, this poem I wrote during the time when the governor of California was Brown, Jerry Brown. You know, and I was not happy with some of the situation he had to deal with, that he didn't seem like he was dealing with quite right for our people. And so I wrote this poem, I think it was maybe 2014 or something. It's called Governor Brown. Governor Brown, I see you have found $7.5 million to keep my black man down. $7.5 million, if you were willing, could build a monument dedicated to their giving, even though mostly unwilling. Yeah, it was in their prime that you accused them of a crime so petty that many has lost their minds. So the feds gave you an ultimatum. Release them from their overcrowded spaces or stand before me and face the consequences. Mr. Brown, they say you're the best governor around. Why? They voted you in twice. You have not let them down. So you've devised a plan that will keep the black man in the slammer. 10,000 awaits your decision on how best to spend the $7.5 million. The private sector waits for you to stimulate it. They say Obama is a fake, no job can he create. It's left for you, Mr. Governor Brown, on your second time around, governing this town, to invest in the black and brown men you have on lockdown. Sending them to a private prison where the man can make his living and turn this bad economic around.
Yes.
Yeah, Wall Street's bell will be ringing as the investors make a killing on the backs of the unwilling, black and brown. It was 2013 I wrote that.
All right.
So, it was very relevant to read today, although Governor Brown is no longer our governor, but there's certain things are still in place, even though they're not talking about it. You see, if they educated and empower those youths that come in there, if they really cared, you know, there's a drug that's affecting the community right now, and they have a Norcan in every school. Anytime someone about to overdose, they just could grab it. So you know how to work with people when there's a problem.
Yeah.
But we are always the exception. So, YouTube family, please thumbs up, share, and leave a comment. And thank you so much for listening and spending time with Mr. Jamal and me, Ms. Roshumba. Asheo, blessings.